interview.
Yeah, here, I'm just going to start
Course
recording now
content.
before I forget. So this whole class is about, like, kind of deconstructing the idea of play. And because, like, in our program, we talk about how, like, play is, like, obviously it's natural to children, and, like, a lot of our early learning, like, framework that we look at and study is based around play. So the class is kind of like a deconstructing, like, what is play, what does it mean to play, why is play important, and then kind of just, like, exploring how it relates to, like, the current world and systems that we live in and all that. So the point of this assignment is I was told to interview someone from a different generation to see how, like, their perception and ideas of play kind of differ from my own, if that makes sense.
It does, and I'm going to tell you before we start that you are my answers. You're going to learn about my youth.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Which is totally different than you may think.
Yeah, that's perfect. So It's recording. Don't feel like you have to, like, act up or anything. It's just like normal conversation. I'm just recording so I have stuff to talk about. And yeah. So my first question is just, like, obviously I know you, but I'm going to be sharing this with my professor, so if you just want to, like, say your name and, like, a little sentence about yourself. Yeah.
So it's Claire Sarazay, and I am Max's grandmother on the paternal side.
Oh.
Nice, eh? And I have 2 children and 5 grandchildren and some life experience, I guess.
That's good. So So my next question is just, like, you said it yourself, but just, like, kind of paint the picture for, like, when you were born and, like, what you kind of did growing up, like, not necessarily focused on play yet, but just kind of, like, giving us, like, a background on, like, where you grew up and what the circumstances were at the time.
All right. So I was born in 1956 in August, and I was a premature child because my older brother, who was 12 months, contracted polio, and my mom was pregnant with me, and the whole thing about him being in the hospital, and then they had to disinfect the house and throw out things, and so it was a lot of work for my mom, and she went into early labor. So there you go. For the first year, my brother was in the hospital, so they spent their time there. I had an aunt and uncle who took care of me because my parents were obviously very busy. And so that kind of is how my life started.
Mm-hmm.
When my aunt and uncle moved out from this house, my grandparents had a big house on Rito Street, and my aunt and uncle moved out and bought a home, and they missed me. So from a very young age, I started to go spend my weekends there from Friday to Sunday. They would pick me up Friday after their work and then bring me home Sunday night. I spent if it was a long weekend, I was there a long weekend. If it was 2 weeks, like in the summer when they took time off, I was with them, traveled with them to different places in Ontario to visit friends or family. So my childhood was one of being pretty much a single child.
Mm-hmm.
Because during the week, yes, I would be home, but I would be at school or, getting babysat. And then on weekends, I would be with them, and I would be alone as a child. So for me, it was almost like being an only child, because I didn't have the opportunity to make friends. I was too young during the week. Like when you're 2 or 3 or 4, you're at home, and your parents are busy, and you've got a brother who's in and out of the hospital, and then on weekends I wasn't there. So even during school, if I did make friends at school, I didn't do anything with them on weekends. So my childhood made me a little bit of an introvert. I was shy. I was, alone. Alone. I loved my childhood. Like I was, my aunt and uncle were wonderful to me. As were my parents, but it was different.
Yeah. That was very interesting. I'm just gonna plug my phone in. I don't want it to die during the recording. Thankfully, I have the power of editing, so I can splice it together. That was very insightful, Mamere.
I know, eh?
You're very well spoken. There we go. Okay. Okay, good. So, that was very well spoken.
Yeah, thank you.
So you mentioned that although like you had siblings, you come from a big family, all that, like growing up you felt like a single child, like especially...
Well, yes, because my older brother couldn't really participate in any activities for a long time because of his handicap. He had one leg that was that had the polio, and so he couldn't run, couldn't skate, couldn't do a lot of sports. And I had a younger brother who was 4 years younger than me. I was the only girl, and it was just that I wasn't. You're home, you go to school, you come home, you do your homework, time to go to bed. Then it wasn't. There was friends around the neighborhood. We lived in a low rental project, and there was kids my age, but I never got to be friends with them because the only time you would be friends with these people is if you do things on weekends.
Yeah.
So I never experienced all that.
So when like you think back on growing up in your childhood and being kind of isolated, and someone brings up the word like play or just like the concept of like playing as a child, like do you have any like specific memories that stick out to you, or like a feeling almost that kind of resonates with you when you think about playing growing up, or do you just feel like it was kind of suppressed because of your circumstance?
There was no play. I don't remember playing with friends. I became kind of isolated because I was shy. I was too shy to make friends because I was, alone. Like I remember at my aunt and uncle's being, going into the yard, and they had, I could play outside, but I was alone. There had no neighbors with kids there. It was an older or families, so there was nobody my age. And at home was the same thing. Well, I mean, we had kids my age around there, but I didn't know them. I only got to know them when I got into grade 8 or high school. Grade 9 is when I started to be more outgoing and meet friends. And then in high school it was a little bit different because then you've got the freedom, right? You've got more freedom because you're in high school. So I started making friends then. And I went to my aunt and uncle's until I was 15. So when you when you said to me it was about play, my first reaction was, well, I don't know that. I don't know playing as a child. And then I thought, well, you know what? It's a different perspective. Like, I'm not the only one in this world, I'm sure, who had a childhood that was not restricted, but sort of
just like a victim to your circumstance.
Well,
almost.
And listen, it was great. Like, I loved, if I couldn't go for whatever reason to my aunt and uncle because they had plans, they had a wedding, you know, and it was something that I wasn't okay, like I couldn't be there because they had other plans. I cried. I wanted to go there. I wanted to go and be in that surrounding. I think because I had all their attention. As opposed to at home, you know, with my brother, it was I don't remember a lot of it, but I'm sure that it took my parents, that the attention had to be to him. I'm sure. I mean, it was every couple of years he would spend, you know, weeks at the hospital because he had surgeries and you know, just it made him very spoiled. So he wanted all the attention. I think it just made me very what's that word? I can't remember what word I want to say here.
Like separated or?
Well, separated, but very shy, very
introverted,
very
just kind of like disconnected, maybe.
Yeah. Like I was, like I said, in my neighborhood. I went to school, and all the kids on the street, we were all in the same grades, but I couldn't make any friends after school because, well, first of all, when you're young, after school, you don't get to go out, or I was too shy to be going out. And then on weekends, when it's time to be outside playing with these friends, I wasn't there. But I didn't want to be there even. Yeah.
So on the weekends, you just kind of went back to like your safe haven of your aunts and uncles. And
yes, I think it's that. It's that. It was almost like being an only child.
Yeah.
And it was comforting that I had these two people, you know.
And was there any like specific like routine or activity you did when you were over for the weekend, or did you just kind of hang out and go from there?
Yeah. I mean, they had friends that they played cards with on, not every Saturday night, but, you know, they liked to go and to different homes, or they'd have people over and they'd play cards. And I would go with them, you know, and if most of their friends had older kids, because my aunt and uncle were older than my parents, at least 15 years older. So if we went somewhere and there were kids, they were teenagers. And here I'm going there and I'm 4 or 5 or 7, and then, the kids are 20, but now I'm 10. They didn't want to entertain me. So I would just bring coloring books or reading books, or, you know, maybe they had a little television I could watch and then fall asleep, and they'd wake me up at the end of the night and take me to their place, and I'd go to bed, and
yeah,
that was my growing up.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. That I learned a lot just now too.
I knew because I don't.
Yeah.
Right. We don't talk about that, but
yeah, we should more. Now I just want to like skip ahead on the timeline a little bit. So we have like your idea of playing growing up and all that, and obviously like you didn't play much, but you still like had like. You said you enjoyed your childhood. You had people in your life that you felt like a big sense of belonging that you were with and that you loved and you trusted, which is great. and I just want to kind of focus back on this idea of play.
Yeah.
And I just kind of wanted to explore, like, maybe how you not playing as a child, like, would you say your perception shifted after having your own kids of, like,
Oh my gosh,
this
yes.
idea around play, or?
Yes. So, like, I remember playing, they had a sandbox,
Mm-hmm.
and I played alone in my sandbox.
Mm-hmm.
We tried, like, my parents tried to put me in different activities. So I love skating, so they thought maybe I could do some figure skating and, tap dancing and other kinds of activities. I was just too shy, too, not enough self-confidence, I think, to be doing those things. So obviously, when I had my children, it was very important for me for them to be in activities. They were, like, at a young age, I remember, they were like 3 and 5, and we put them in hockey, and they could hardly skate, and they would hold on to the hockey,
Like the board.
the board, with their
Yeah.
little fingers, but they didn't go into the skating. That I put them in skiing. They love that. Baseball, soccer. Like, I made sure that they had friends. I made sure that they had the kind of childhood that I didn't get, in that sense, And they did. They had tons of friends, and we had friends come over. Like, they enjoyed being in our house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and would you say that, like, their childhood, like, let's say after school, like after homeworks and all that was done, would you say they engaged in more play or different types of play than you did growing up?
Absolutely. The kids in our neighborhood, they all went to the same school. So after school, after supper, especially in the summertime, they would be playing together. Like, they'd be out there doing whatever, like, not always in my yard, but they'd be out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And were you ever, like, I know, like, people say, like, that time, like, it was just kind of like a free-for-all where the kids were just kind of, like, out doing whatever, like, after school, playing without, like, any heavy supervision. Would you say, like, that's true, or that's just kind of like a stereotype that's kind of been morphed over time?
There was, you don't know what the kids are doing if they're out in a park, like, that you can't see. But I think, like, knowing my sons, I think they were always good kids. They were, like, the good ones, they weren't the bullies, they weren't the, they were respectful.
Were you ever, like, worried if they were out for too long or doing their own thing with other people in the neighborhood?
No, because I knew the kids. I knew, I knew the families.
Yeah. Just the reason I'm asking is, like, there's been a big, like, push lately on kind of, like, the negatives of, like, our current, like, societal norm, I guess. Like, like, the big, like, stranger danger push in the early 2000s and all that, where, like, a lot of families and parents don't feel comfortable, like, leaving their kids, like, unsupervised in, like, their play.
Well, till a certain age.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, like, definitely when we had a park behind our place, not too far from here. And, like, we always had to make sure that we knew where they were, and or depending on the age, saw where they were. Like, we had to be there,
Yeah. So if you could, like, I guess kind of, like, summarize, like, what play was in like that era, I guess, like what your understanding was and what
For my kids?
and for your kids, like
Yeah.
play in that kind of
Right.
time.
So at a younger age, obviously, like I said, they were in sports, so they they loved baseball, especially. We had a big hill next to our little community. They did a lot of sledding in the winter. They had bicycles. There was a park across the street that they could play basketball.
Yeah, just a lot of outdoor sports.
A lot of
type
outdoor
thing,
stuff. I'm sure they went and, like, sometimes they would just sit in our yard, the whole bunch of them, and chit chat and laugh and whatever, and then they'd probably do that at other homes too. Yeah, I think that's
it.
yeah. They had lots of friends.
Yeah. So it was just like you emphasized the focus of like them having more socialization.
Oh
than
my
you
gosh,
did. So
absolutely.
you kind of like saw that reflected in like their experiences like growing up and all that.
Yes.
Like it was a very like social time.
Very much, very
them.
much. It was nice to see them have friends, and the friends come over, and they loved coming to our place.
Yeah. Are you good if we nip the bud there and go to the last little section?
Absolutely.
So I wanted to just like fast forward one
Sure.
more time because I thought it'd be really interesting to do like 3 separate points of like your perception and ideas of play. So the next section I guess I want to focus on is like, obviously I'm one of your grandchildren, right? You have 5 of them. So would you say that like your perception of play and like what play looks like and what children choose to engage themselves in, kind of like your perspective that changed from having your own kids to having grandchildren, or even like your own understanding of play? Like that, I'm not wording it well, but kind of just like how the idea of play changed. Like we talked about how you as a child, you didn't play much, so you focused on like your children playing and them socializing, and a lot of their play was like outdoor based and physical, like movement based. And then going to like a completely different time, like early 2000s, grandchildren, would you say that like play changed overall?
Might as well bring her down.
Yeah.
Come on, girl.
That's okay.
Oh my gosh.
It's okay.
Did she do the...
No.
Damn.
It's okay.
She did. Well, obviously I don't know the ins and outs, like, completely of how my sons raised, or, the life, but I'm pretty sure that you guys had a good childhood of being involved, and I think even school has more to do with play now than in our day, in my days.
Yeah,
It
like
was,
in 2011, they changed the kindergarten program from half day to full day.
right,
And the kinder program is like, or it's intended to be like entirely play based.
right.
So like it's not really reflected it being entirely play based, but the idea is that children are like engaged in play for their whole day at school in kindergarten, and that's how they're learning rather than
Right.
direct instruction, because
Right.
that's what their brains have the capacity for and the need for at that age.
So, like, my grandkids are all very socialized compared to how I was, like, you guys are all so outgoing and like your parents, the parents, both sides, like raised you guys really well, and you're all very. It's not just social, but you know how to talk to adults.
Mm-hmm.
You know how to be respectful and I mean, there was a time when after I retired, I remember picking up all the 5 grandkids and we had cousin days,
Mm-hmm.
Those were fun. Like we did, like your parents made sure you had a social life, and then I made sure in the summertime that
Yes.
I could, sort of get summer those days, whether it was outside or going bowling or going to a movie, or like we, made sure that we got you out there. And
Yeah. So to you, play is just like, I guess the whole theme of this interview is like play is just like a very socially
it is.
skewed
Well, it is because
thing, yeah.
because it socializes you to be able to learn how to be with other people.
Yep.
From a young age,
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I grew up and I was like, I remember from being very young, people would say that I was very, like it was, I knew how to act around adults.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how to act around children my own age.
Mm-hmm.
But I was so polite and I could have conversations with adults, but not kids my own age. Up until, like I said, maybe grade 8. Grade 9 was a big change for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and would you just say it's just because the climate in the school changed? And
Oh
of
yeah,
just like,
because then you're with these kids who are, out there, and they've got all these friends, and I just sort of, you kind of have to,
Mm-hmm.
It was a little easier, I think, because I wanted to be grown up.
Yeah. Yeah. So you just kind of had an easier time because the norm kind of shifted from
That's
being a
it.
kid to kind of being like this young.
That's it.
adult
And not
kid.
just that, now you're in grade 9, but in your school, there's grade 12s.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't want to be like cast
Yes.
away or whatever when you're great, you want to kind of start fitting in.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when, I remember things changed
Yeah.
in me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's great. I honestly don't have anything else to add. So if you have anything else to add or ask, you can. But yeah, I appreciate you. That was very fun and
Okay.
engaging. Perfect.